Name is Josiah Walker, and I am the writer and director for the short film Very Prosperous Men here at Raindance. Very Prosperous Men is about a struggling door-to-door Bible salesman in 1962 who struggles to navigate the haunting consequence of his actions. There, I remember the log line. And
What consequences of his action?
well, it might be a spoiler,
Okay.
but I'll say it. I'll say it because the log line actually used to have this in there, which was he commits murder and then struggles to navigate the haunting consequence of that action. And so, yeah, but period piece, 1962 Americana. And yeah, we filmed it in Bakersfield, which is a city outside of Los Angeles, but it looks very, we kind of made it look like Texas. One of the big inspirations for it is the Maisel brothers documentary called Salesman. And so that one follows a bunch of Bible salesmen in 1969. And that is a true story. But we just took a lot of inspiration from door to door sales.
Like, what drew you to this topic?
Well, me and my writing partner were working on a television series, and which is quite unrelated to the short film, but we needed to, or we started coming up with a bottle episode explaining the origin for this mysterious watch. And when we wrote the bottle episode, we were like, wait a second, this is a very great standalone film. So we wrote that and then changed the ending to so it would be a complete, succinct 3-act structure. And yeah, and I think I don't know, I was just very drawn to sort of this mysticism that kind of came out of it, because there's the Bible selling aspect to it, but then there's sort of a handshake deal with the devil, sort of Faustian bargain element to the film. Yeah.
Is there a religious aspect, or is it more?
It's actually debatable. I'm not religious. My writing partner is actually quite Christian, and so he was writing it from that perspective, and I think there was a lot of influence from I was raised religious, so I am familiar with the sacred texts, and I do actually love the book in the Bible called the Book of Ecclesiastes. It's quite a it's a very sobering, very depressing bit of book that I'm not quite sure how they left it in there. I think it might be in there a mistake, but it's very Buddhist, very nihilist. It's everything is like, there's nothing new under the sun, and like all of your toiling in life is meaningless. Like the whole book is basically this dying king writing and saying that life is meaningless.
Okay.
And so writing that into this film came about the idea of marrying sort of a modern biblical proverb and marrying that with sort of the commerce of where religion and commerce met, with American capitalism. And let me see how many other words I can fit into this sentence to make me sound smart. But American capitalism at the turn of the 20th century, 21st century. And yeah. So a lot of our references were Cindy Sherman, the photographer. So we looked at a lot of her work in the 70s, and a lot of she has a lot of like clown era photography, but then there's this era that she has that's it looks like the 70s. It's very gritty, and the lighting is a lot of harsh, strong shadows and things, almost neo-noir.
Yeah.
And so drew a lot of inspiration from that. And I think one of the main things that I wanted that the cinematographer was on board with was to not have a lot of camera movement. So it's either we're moving on a dolly or the camera's locked off on sticks. So nothing handheld.
Why not?
I think I like sort of the a God's eye view. So I want the audience to feel like they're looking through a frame and watching a world on the other side. I don't want them to feel immersed in the world and that they're part of the story with the audience.
Okay.
And so the other big influence was Robert Bresson, who's a French filmmaker, and his film L'Argent was a big influence as well. And his shots are very minimal.
Why didn't you want the audience to feel like they're part of the film?
I don't know. I just really like cold and clinical. I like frames that look like paintings. You can kind of sit back and watch. and you feel like there's glass between you and you're seeing. I just think that's a fun way. I like immersive.
Safe distance.
When I think of immersive, Saving Private Ryan just popped into my head, and I love that as well. Right, the ocean scene and that is the beginning, Normandy and on the beaches and stuff is very handheld, and I love that as well. But I think for this, I wanted something a little bit more slow. It feels a little bit more. When the camera doesn't move at all, it's not as natural to us versus handheld and stuff.
Yeah.
So I like that. I feel like it kind of can make you suspend disbelief. Kind of similar to like shooting like film and making things have the quality of film in 24 frames per second. Somehow it's like our eyes seem to and our minds can suspend disbelief and enjoy and have this cinematic experience, whereas different frame rates seem to take us out of that. Right? Higher, faster frame rates for some reason don't feel natural in a way that make us believe the story that's unfolding in it. It's not something I understand, but it's something I feel. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Could it be a reflection of your personality? Are you sort of more of a distant person?
It could be. I think and one thing that pops in my head is like Stanley Kubrick's a director who does the very clinical, very cold and movements like that. But I don't know if it's something I do for every project, because I also love, and a lot of people have drawn the comparison to David Lynch in this short film.
Oh, nice.
And I think David Lynch has a lot of more his cinematography, especially in like Mulholland Drive and some of his last films surrounding that area, and his working with, I think it's Peter Deming, I think is this cinematographer, a lot of steady camera. So a lot of floating. Everything's kind of floating, which I also love. Very dreamy. Yeah. Which I guess Kubrick. I think we spent the most time on sound design, and that's where I would say my love for David Lynch is with sound design, and just very exaggerated, deep. I like a lot of low end in the drones and in the background spaces, right? There's a scene in a hotel, and I spent a bunch of time kind of like finding like different HVAC systems and tweaking the EQ and layering like 6 tracks together and panning it, to just get the right frequency space to kind of make you feel uncomfortable when you're in this hotel room. And actually, their composer is the one British elements in our film. I think everybody's American, homegrown for it, except our composer is Rolly Porter, who's like a British DJ over here. So does really lovely soundscapes and
Or electronic.
Yes, electronic, very very abstract, very intuitive fellow, and we matched really well because we didn't want like a distinct like motif, or like a hook.
Yeah.
So he was able to do something very soft and gentle.
What's your writing process?
I really like tactile. I like writing by hand on note cards and on I actually built a magnetic. So you take like a magnetic whiteboard, and then I put magnet tiles on the back of cards that you can write on and dry erase off of, and then I can put those on and slide them around. And so I start there and kind of build out the map of the story, and I like to visually be able to like have that versus working in like Miro board or something on your laptop.
You see it.
Yeah, I need that sort of scale and that geographical, like that 3D-ness of it was really helpful. And then I move into my laptop and just hunker down and type away. Yeah.
Can you be in any space? Or do you have a dedicated writing space?
This was my first feature, and my girlfriend didn't come involved until I'd finished the first couple of drafts. But it changed considerably after that. So I stayed in some cabins in the woods. I stayed at a cheap motel in Santa Barbara on the water. And then that started becoming very expensive. And so then I found a co-working space nearby where we live in Los Angeles. So I could walk there every day and then kind of isolate in there.